And we are recording on Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025 at 10:17 a.m. Eastern Time with Mr. Dan Collins, who I got in touch with through Mr. Brandon Weichert. And I don't think he's ever actually, not to kiss your ass, I don't think he's ever actually recommended a guest to me,
Yeah.
and he recommended you. And I've known Brandon for about 4 years. So I take that
Okay.
as like some level of like, all
Yeah.
right, it's got to be good, right? It's
Yeah.
so, yeah. So that's about, and he discussed, I believe, your time in China. He just kind of kept saying that you have a very different view on things. And, you know, I've done all the interviews and, about all the, of General Spalding to Gordon Chang. I get it. CCP Rising, military, get it. And then the other side is no, it's a paper tiger. The other
Mhm.
side is no, it's the preeminent force. It's going to dismantle us any second now. And then I don't know, kind of the middle ground where it's like, yeah, it's an expanding empire that, that's what countries do. What do you think we are? And
Mhm.
as Dan Carlin said, the only reason we bomb the Nazis is because they're trying to take over the world. That's our job. So yeah,
Right.
that's the unsanctimonious introduction. But Mr. Collins, could you please introduce yourself to and tell everyone that's listening about yourself as well as me? So yeah.
Sure, yeah. Originally from Detroit area, Michigan. Did my undergrad at Michigan State. I then did a exchange program at Tsinghua University. This is going back to the late 90s. Tsinghua is like the MIT of China. People may have heard of it. And yeah, I was there 6 months. I did work with some people high level in the engineering school. Then I was there for 20 years. I stayed in China for 20 years. Started out originally with Fortune 500 companies. There was a lot of new plants getting built. We ended up running the factories. I left American Fortune 500 companies probably 2010, and then I joined some Taiwanese companies. I had around 2,000 employees for a Taiwanese company when I left China. I left China in 2019, right before COVID. So I kind of got out just in time and moved back to Miami. So that's where I am today. I own a few different companies and I'm basically an entrepreneur at this point of my career. So, yeah.
Started the podcast December 12th, 2019. I think the first episode was me and a buddy being like, wait, what's this thing in Hong Kong? Is there like a virus? And it's so
Yeah.
eerie going back. You can, like, through the episodes, it's like people are freaking out. They're saying it's coming to America. And then it's like a week later, it's like, yeah, there's a case in California. And it's like, yeah, and then you can slowly see like the cockiness decreasing and being like, hey, man, what do you
I think
think
it
this?
was that video of the guy falling over in Wuhan or something. He was at
Yeah.
like the toll booth or something and he just fell down. Like, that's when I went, uh-oh, what's going on?
You start getting this whole, you're like, hey man, and then, I've interviewed tons of Green Berets and Delta Force guys, and like one by one, we'd be doing regular shows, and they'd be like, hey, I can't do it. And I'll be like, yeah, man, no worries. And they'd be like, yeah, I'm heading out to a place in the mountains. And I was like, and then it was like one after another, and it was like, and then, one of them's like, yeah, I'm in an RV with the kids. Yeah, we're just getting out of here. And I'll be like, this is Yuri, and and then blah blah blah. But in terms of just the like the wild polarities of views on China, and it's I totally get, you know, I totally get having an aggressive, fearful mindset. I think fear and anxiety is actually very beneficial. It's, for even for just my own podcast, I think it is always advantageous to assume that everyone else is doing better and that you are not catching up because that forces you to work harder, right? You talk to the guy that got a 99 on the test and you're like, "Are you proud?" And he's beating himself up for not getting a 100. I think that that's not a bad way to in general run things. So if you're in the US, the intelligence agencies, military command, whatever, it's probably not a bad modus operandi. But then there's the flip side of you don't want it to be paralyzing to where China's this boogeyman that's gonna pop out of the floorboards. And then I would say maybe equally as bad is the very cocky, like they're a paper dragon. We've got 13 aircraft carriers. And granted, but I mean, America's been running the world since like 45. That's not that long. And
Yeah.
it happens slowly. So,
Yep.
do you have any just take on just as someone that's been there and then
Yeah.
with everyone I interview, it's always, I can talk about Black Hawk Down. I had on the actual pilot Mike Durant, and then he tells you things. You're like, oh, and it kind of that's
Yep.
really all I can do is surface level. I know what it is. I obviously have my biases. Where do you come down on any of that? Is there any gray area that you
So
can maybe elucidate or illuminate?
yeah, I think to your point, you get opinions all over the map, and that's really, I think, it's either a knowledge or a complete lack of knowledge on the subject matter. How many China experts do you run into that haven't been there, don't speak the language? It's absolutely ridiculous. So like I tell people, imagine you're a Chinese analyst and you're in the middle of nowhere. You're in Hunan province. You don't speak English, but you're an American analyst. You've never been to America. You've never even watched an American movie. You don't speak English, but you're an American expert. Would you listen to this guy? He doesn't know anything. So this is what we do in the United States. We listen to these people about China. Where I fall on the spectrum on China is we call it. I have a few friends on X. We call ourselves China owls. So we are we're not panda huggers and we're not going crazy that China's going to take over the world. Economically, it is a force to be reckoned with. So I'll cover the
Yeah.
economy part. It is absolutely by far the world's largest economy. They do three times the number of cars we do. They do twice the power generation. They make all their stuff and they make all our stuff. 50% of the world's chemicals. I mean, literally, the statistics go on and on. It is actual real economy powerhouse, unlike we've not seen anything like this probably since the U.S. post World War II
Yeah.
is last time one country could economically dominate like they have. The US, we still kind of control the global financial system, call it. We had Hollywood. We have a large savings pool of like say 80, trillion dollars. But yet we have massive debts. We've become deindustrialized. I've been talking for 20 years, literally 20 years, kind of holding China up as a mirror, saying, guys, they're going to eat our lunch if we don't get it together. I'm from Detroit. I lived through a 30-year deindustrialization and recession. And I've been pushing that now to like we've got to get our industry back. You can't do anything, including the military aspect, if you lose the industrial base. And that's really what's happened. So we spend $1 trillion a year on our military while not being able to produce most of the industrial goods it requires to hold up a high level military. So
Yeah, it's there does seem I was gonna say, would you take advice from the American expert who doesn't speak the language and has never been there, hasn't watched? I would if I also hadn't, and I wouldn't know any better. I assume that this guy's got to at least have, and then if I was an adult, I'd be like, he's probably doing something that's nationalistic, probably wants to paint American as, but I would if I didn't have any other. Yeah,
right.
in terms of eating for lunch, I mean, it's like as as I'm 35, but it's like as you get older, like you start to look at different different and then future chunks of time differently. You're 19, you're in college, and it just felt like, oh man, it was, this is going to take forever. I just did 4 years of high school, and then those go by, and you're like, oh, okay. And now I'm 35. I've been doing the podcast for 6 years next week, and I go, oh, that's because as it becomes a smaller and smaller fraction of your life, I go, I could do another six. Yeah, no, and realistically, and this is another important point. Realistically, I could go, yeah, I can stick to this. I can see the growth. It's exponential. It's not linear. Keep going. Yeah, I would imagine that you have to hit a certain point that, and I guess it kind of tops out at the average lifespan. But I would imagine around 80, you start to go, 80 years is not that long. And okay, 45 to 90 Cold War, 90 to now, you're like, oh wait. And these things don't happen overnight. And I think it was Richard Rhodes. It's a quote about, FDR turned the U.S. into a military, an industrialized powerhouse that could create goods on a scale hard to describe in terms of just the Liberty ships, the P-51 Mustang, just the level that they were rolling off. And
Yep.
you could look at Germany. You could say like German engineering, absolutely, totally better than ours. Their tanks, their guns, everything totally better than ours. And I think there's a quote from some general that was like, "Man, one German tank could take on four American tanks." Well, how did you
Yes,
guys win? We just made sure we had five. And
sure.
so you look at all of that.
Quantity,
Yeah,
quantity has a quality all its own, as
correct.
they say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Messerschmitt 262 jet engine.
Yep.
Great. We've
Yep.
just got like 100 of these prop planes.
Right.
Okay, so let's take that. Let's just take that right there and
Yep.
let's put it today. Dude, America's got the B-2 bomber, dude.
Yep.
We've been doing lasers out in DARPA and
Yep.
all well and good. The thing that we use to win is what they're doing
Yeah.
now. And it's going
Yeah.
to be the equivalent of America as an aircraft carrier. China's making 10 million kamikaze drones a week. That's
Yeah.
kind of my
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I agree, and people forget too that, an aircraft carrier hasn't faced a pure enemy in probably 70 years.
Yeah.
We have GPS now. We have satellites. We have, carriers sinking. China has carriers sinking missiles. Every time you do a war game for the last more than 10 years in the East Pacific and the South China Sea, we lose because you're faced with Dongfeng cruise missiles that
Yeah.
will take out the entire Asia Pacific fleet. So that gets in the whole defending Taiwan argument, which is just not possible. So yeah, we need a rationality, but as I went back to my original point, that you can't keep any of this up without the defense industrial base being good. And China has far surpassed us. And I think if you look at all the different military tech, we're left wanting in a lot of space despite the money we spent. Rocket forces, we got, Navy logistics is a big issue. They talk about in Asia Pacific. We basically have a floating museum out there. So I get the feeling U.S. we run around with a Top Gun era military, and people are moving forward with the drones and the all the other stuff. We may have some really high tech gadget stuff, but it's quite concerning. And to your point on the quality, like if you can't make this stuff, if you have to import everything from China to make it, what's the point? You're
It's
highly vulnerable.
yeah.
I always attribute China as U.S. was in the 40s, at post World War II today. And we look more like the Soviet Union, to be honest, in the 90s, where we have this great military reputation, yet our economic base has been completely zapped and deindustrialized. And we're clinging onto the military power, but you can only do that so long with your real economy, not able to produce anything. So,
Yeah, like, it kind of seems like it's almost advantageous, aside from the says my internet's breaking up. Can you still hear me?
yep, I hear you.
Yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. Um, it's almost advantageous aside from the obvious of, war is bad and you shouldn't kill people. Okay. It almost seems like it's advantageous for us to not start a war with China. And I know that sounds like a 10 IQ take, but if our weapons are, because let's play the inverse. The B-2 and I would imagine the B-21 are insane pieces of technology. God knows what we have up in orbit. If you can hold that up as a don't take it on, that might actually be a way of stability. I mean, and nothing's eternal, so at least a couple more decades, but you almost want them to think that, okay, we could do like a World War II type thing, but man, it's going to escalate wildly. And I guess I also look at something like carrier killers. Absolutely. The Dongfeng 14 or whatever, the 7, whatever. Absolutely. You could absolutely destroy it. But I also, in my total lack of wisdom, I have a biology degree, but I'll play four-star general. Taking out a carrier, I mean, I feel like that's on par with dropping a nuke on DC. You absolutely can do it. They've been able to do it since the 50s. You really the missile defense doesn't really work. So how come they haven't? Well, we're going to destroy them. I feel like in a sinking an aircraft carrier we would treat it the same way as a nuclear strike on LA. So I don't know. Maybe we're just at this weird point of as weapons get more and more horrifying, we're almost forced to have some sort of detente. And more and more, I've been thinking that for a while, I thought America was just going to dominate. We were just going to sabotage Russia and China. Then I went through a period of thinking America's collapsing. We're a waning empire. We're going to be hollowed out. China's going to dominate. now, and simply only because the advent of nuclear weapons, every other paradigm from, the pyramids till now, you can kind of predict, okay, bloated empire, big, 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 overextended, collapse, turmoil, ruin. I think with the advent of nuclear weapons, I think what's most likely is we will recede. We're a waning empire, but it will be a Monroe Doctrine 2.0 kind of thing. And we will, I would imagine, slowly peel back US bases in China and the Middle East, and they will fill that. But because of nuclear weapons, that little asterisk in all my wisdom, I don't think we're necessarily going to see America go away, China take over. The same way I don't think we'll ever take over China because nuclear weapons.
Exactly. I don't think either country thinks they could invade each other and win. It's not.
No.
Yeah, it's not possible. And as of today, if you look at it very objectively, although DC has a lot of foreign policy types, you mentioned Gordon Chang, who's literally been wrong for 25 years now. It's kind of a joke on Twitter. These guys are freaking out because all of a sudden they're kind of waking up and going, "Oh my God, are we number two?" They can't handle it. But my viewpoint is let's deal with reality, and then if we let's figure out where we want to go, and then let's get there. But pretending that reality doesn't exist will get us nowhere. So China, objectively speaking, hasn't been an aggressive power for throughout most of its history. Last war was a border skirmish with Vietnam. It was like 76. Whereas if you look at if you're China in China's shoes, you look at the list of conflicts the United States has been in, you're a little bit concerned.
Yeah.
You're talking, how many 50 conflicts, so in the post World War II. So yeah, I don't see China right now as an aggressive power. What may save us, and I totally agree with your point that the world's far too dangerous now to get in pure wars with nuclear weapons. It's crazy. So the good news there, though, is that unlike previous eras of history, the world is much, much older than it used to be. If you look at throughout human history, Alexander the Great's 28 years old, right? He's
Mm.
got the testosterone. They want to destroy, they want to
Just
conquer. But
yeah.
everybody's older now, right? China's as old as we are. Like if the average guy is 55 or 60, maybe they're not, thinking these ways that we got to go conquer and take over everywhere. So we're all suffering a demographic crisis, basically, US, China, Japan, Europe. So that may save us at the end of the day. I don't see people wanting to put boots on the ground because you're not going to take over China. China's not going to take us over. Why would they want to rule this rabble here? Like, can you imagine? They wouldn't. Who'd want that job?
Yeah. I think it is more I believe it was Richard Rhodes, and I've had him on the show a million times, with the making of the atomic bomb in the 70s. It's like the point is he points out something very fast because all of his books are actually about violence, just different levels. And he actually points out, he's talked about how insane these weapons are, the A bomb and then the hydrogen bomb, which is 1,000 times stronger, which I feel like doesn't really get enough appreciation of what it is. From 1945 till now, every year, I forget the exact phrase, the total number of deaths from war, so the gross number, as well as the percentage, so relative to the world's population, has been decreasing. And based on, how stable and true our records going back decades and millennia, it had been rising essentially from the agricultural revolution until August 9th when we dropped one on Nagasaki and it stopped. And I would imagine before agricultural revolution and before writing, it was probably even worse. Hunter
Yeah.
gatherers, I'm
Oh,
sure it was even
yeah.
worse. That's a fascinating statistic to just through all empires, just from stained glass windows and we're gonna go explore the edge of the earth to now or until 45, it had been going up, getting more and more violent total and percentage. And now for, I mean, what, 80 straight years, it's been going down.
Yep.
I think you can't, that's not a point to be argued with.
Right.
That's a statistic.
Yeah, and if you notice, well, as you point out, most of human history is, a step tribe coming and wiping out your whole village
It's like,
while you're just trying to grow corn or something. So, yeah, but if you look at to your point on the nuclear weapons, nobody messes with North Korea. despite being the Hermit Kingdom, and that's because they got nuclear weapons. So, and we attack people without nuclear weapons. So we kind of also give out that
That's
we kind of encourage nuclear proliferation that way, unfortunately.
that is the global Second Amendment. Yeah,
Yeah.
a comedian Tim Dillon pointed that out. He's like, you're living at home and I don't need a weapon. And then, and down the street's a felon. He can't own a weapon. And then one day that the SWAT team just raids him and they just
Right.
kick down his door and they, beat the shit out of him. Best case, worst case, they shoot him. You start going, I'm going to get a shotgun and start
Right.
very, publicly practicing with it because I don't want that to happen. Not necessarily that I even want one. There is, hey man, how come you don't pick on China? They only have 400 nuclear weapons. That's about 390 more than you need.
Yeah,
It's,
absolutely. Yeah.
and we do kind of prove that point. Who do
Yeah.
we bomb? Who do we,
Yeah.
with impunity, who do we roll up on?
Right.
Not nuclear
Right.
power, which is I guess objectively it's sad, but in the same way that, yeah, we should all sing Kumbaya and whole thing. Like, okay, yeah,
Yep.
sure, I get it. But that, I don't, I'm also, who is it? Fukuyama, the end of history.
Hmm.
I also feel like any bold takes will be mocked. And I can
Hmm.
only imagine that like this talk right now will be
Hmm.
mocked in 30 years. They thought world peace was inevitable. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like,
If anybody's around to watch the podcast, right?
yeah, exactly. Like, oh man, they were wrong. They didn't foresee
Yeah.
XYZ. They didn't foresee the nanobot swarms of 2030. Like,
Sure.
oh, so then, but let's to stay in the paradigm of okay, we're not going to nuke each other. Do you think that this just moves to more of an east-west stalemate?
So what I hope happens is we kind of end up in a G2 environment. We don't have to be best friends, but we can be both adults and just say, let's grow our own domestic economies, let's grow our own populations, and let's kind of keep control over the world. Obviously, Europe's out of control now. They've lost the plot. That's completely melting down, both West Europe and obviously Russia, Ukraine. So, yeah, we need leadership, global leadership that can keep things stable because I think people long predicted that as America declines, the whole post-World War II Pax America pulls back, every little tribal thing's going to kick off, right? And we're kind of seeing that everywhere. India, Pakistan, I mean, you just name it, could kick off. So you kind of need strong global leadership. So I'm hoping that's the way it develops. If it doesn't develop that way, we could end up with kind of global chaos. I always joke that China's moving into the world in 1984, and the United States is moving into Blade Runner. Where we've got some cool tech, but we're largely living in this dystopian, burned out cities.
Is this also kind of the impetus for space travel and not for the obvious reasons of it's like what was the space race in the 50s and 60s? Taking a nuke, putting it on a rocket, and putting it over there.
Right.
It's okay, yeah, military technology always pushes the world forward. Is this kind of if that human, because it is in us to want to dominate, right? Again, it's like,
Sure.
have we become peaceful since 1945? No, 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 no. There's been no change in like our level of consciousness. It's like, oh, I'm not going to nuke him because I'm going to get nuked. It's like, it's hilarious.
I mean, if you look at mathematically, on a long enough timeline, a nuclear event is inevitable, right? It's scary. You saw India bomb Pakistan's nuclear storage last year. When they had that little war, they don't have any time. If something kicks off with a nuclear weapon exchange between those two, there's no time. So while we're all focused on China, U.S., Russia, Ukraine, we could get hit from something like that, and
Yeah,
out of the blue. It's quite concerning because everyone also, Annie Jacobson wrote that good book on nuclear
yeah.
weapons. I went through,
What was it called? A
and there's just no
scenario? Yeah.
time. Yeah, you get 30, you get 15, 20 minutes, and then the world's gone. So it's craziness what's going on. We have to get especially the Russia Ukraine. It's got me highly concerned with what Europe's doing. But yeah, so let's hope we keep our hands off the trigger long enough.
I think
So
we will only because it's actually the most selfish thing, which again
Yeah,
is just hilarious. Like it's not, it's because we don't want to die. The same reason
right.
why, wars are, fought by young men for old men. It's like the only
Yep,
reason we haven't had nuclear Armageddon is because the old men don't want their penthouse getting vaporized. Like,
right.
so okay, I'll take the win however we get it. And that's the other thing is, yeah, it will. Another great book you might like is Raven Rock by Garrett Graff. It's less about nuclear war and more about nuclear bunkers, starting from like FDR to now.
Okay.
And there are all these quotes from like the presidents that are
Yeah.
just like, "Oh, we can't have a nuclear," war. And it's not even mutual assured destruction because they're just like, "This is the most depressing thing I've ever seen." It's
Yeah.
Mr. President, it's 3,500 feet under granite, and it's just fluorescent lights and MREs, and they're like, so like it's like not only self-preservation, they don't want to die. They don't even want to live in those. I think LBJ called it a tomb. He was like, I don't
Yeah.
he's like, "Hey, kill me. Let
Right.
the vice
Right.
president go there."
Yep. I believe
I
most of those bunkers are now with today's nuclear weapons, they're not even in
they're not,
use.
yeah, yeah. NORAD
Yeah.
was based on circular error probability
Yeah.
that they couldn't hit us, which was
Right.
cool in the 50s.
Yeah.
Not
Right.
now.
I think
Not
even North Korea, North Korea is the guys that have really dug it way down in the event that the Kim family can try to survive a nuclear war. So they concern me that they might be able to launch something and then survive it. But yeah, it's too horrible to think about. It's better we, globally pull back from this kind of Armageddon. What I find fascinating though is like these new Russian Oreshnik missiles where
yeah.
you have basically a kind of a nuclear outcome without the radiation. You're talking about something that's, maybe a 10% of Hiroshima or something. I mean, you hit a city with those things, the kinetic energy, re-entering at, say, Mach 3. Oh my goodness, everything's gone, right? But yet, oh, we didn't nuke you. We have that card. We didn't pull the nuclear trigger. So that could get quite concerning in the European front, I think, in the future if we don't pull back here.
Yeah. There's a funny quote from The Onion. It's like back in like the early 2000s. I remember reading it, and they would just do these kind of faux man on the street things. It was all about like George Bush and the Iraq War, but one of them was just uh, the build up to World War III will be a couple days of just absolutely spectacular conventional weapons before it goes nuclear. It'll just be
Yeah,
like it's going to be really sexy for a couple. You're going to see
yeah,
all this non-nuclear stuff. Like do it for
right.
more, and then eventually someone's going to be like, "Man, fuck this," and just like
Yeah,
press
yeah,
the button. I
yeah,
my hope is that space travel or cognizant or orbital or lunar or whatever you want to call it, doesn't necessarily have to be we're going to another star. Just my hope is that that is some form of obviously make us multiplanetary so we have a hard drive backup, but for that to sort of satiate the animal in us, which is we want to dominate. You want right? It's what is it? It's I forget what it is. Power, pussy, and something else. Not to be crude, but like that's kind of like that's the history of man.
right.
Power, pussy, prestige, I believe. I think that is best case scenario to have that Alexander the Great, like, hey man, I just got to go out and dominate. I don't care if I'm on a chariot or if I'm on a starship. Like, I want to go out and dominate. We can't do it here because we're gonna all nuke each other. I think that's kind of like best case scenario is we take the moon. China
Yeah.
takes like half of Mars or something. I don't
There's
know.
space, there's plenty of space out there, and I believe that's Elon Musk's thought process is to make life
Yeah,
multiplanetary for a backup for sure. And then Bezos wants to do, he doesn't think you should go to another planet and get back into a gravity well. You should develop life in orbit,
yeah,
in orbits. So where you don't have to deal with the gravity issues anymore. So yeah, absolutely. I think that's we're seeing space travel change tremendously now, with SpaceX. But colonizing other planets probably, our grandchildren's kind of thing. Yeah, hopefully we can keep keep everything stable until then, you
it.
know.
There's a great book called Space Barons by Christian Davenport, and it's actually about Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. And I think it was written like 15 years ago, so it's fascinating to see it kind of roll out. But yeah, they've never had the same goal. Elon's always another planet, another planet. Bezos is take those big, disgusting industrial mills. Like when I
Right,
always
right,
remember going to like visit my grandparents in New Jersey and just like you'd see like beautiful Manhattan, and then it was just like miles of like oil refineries and
Right.
like chemical plants. And you're like, what is that's
Smokestacks. Yeah.
disgusting. And I think Bezos' whole thing is take that, put it in orbit. But even now, it's like Occam's razor. I'm just you and I are talking about like how do we stay in peace, and the answer is so out there. It's like, yeah, maybe if we go to different planets, it's like, dude, that can't be the answer. Like that there has to be a simpler thing of, it's
Right.
if this happens, then this happens. Um, is there? And I think, and this is where I'm more shaky on world history. Is it possible that the U.S. does some sort of what I believe Trump is at least attempting to do, some sort of reindustrialization, or does history point towards you kind of don't turn it around. The empire sort of collapses, and I'm admittedly very ignorant, really on everything kind of like before World War II, just in general. Do you have any opinions on we do reindustrialize?
We are trying to reindustrialize. So Trump's plan definitely with the tariffs helps, right? There's no reason we're importing half our cars. It's crazy. The reason why we do is everyone else has blocked their markets, right? East Asia, Germany, these countries have practiced what you call neo-mercantilism, where I'm going to protect my market and I'm going to grow in your market. And that's what they've done. And that led to our deindustrialization. Can we reindustrialize fast enough? We have to reindustrialize. You can't be 350 million people and not make anything. That's not sustainable. We've been continuing to ramp up government printing presses, going further in debt, pushing that money out to the public, and then that money buys goods and services all over the world. But that won't continue indefinitely. You need the USD as a reserve currency for that to continue. I don't see that being the case in 50, 30 years or 20 years. So you got to reindustrialize. Will it happen before everything falls down and collapses? It's a good question. I think it's easier to, if you look at what happened to the Soviet Union, they just completely flatlined for 10, 15, 20 years. Eventually you get a hard man like a
Yeah.
Putin that basically fixes everything. But it takes decades to refix things after you flatline. And some could argue U.S. right now, if you look at our major cities, the drug problems, the social issues, we are flatlining. I mean, it's
Mm.
not a pretty sight in a lot of places. I tell people go to Detroit. We had my hometown area. We had 3.2 million people in Detroit, fourth richest city in the country. They now have 587,000 people
That
and
is
80
insane.
percent of the people are on welfare. So that's what's happened to Detroit since 68, 1970. It's not that long. So, yeah, it's got to turn around. And I believe we've been led down the wrong path for 30 years, 40 years, 50, you could say. Basically, we got very comfortable. We got rid of our industry. Economists told us you don't need to make anything, just go into financial services. And it's been a boondoggle, and it's literally now that it's become a national security issue where, oh, we don't have rare earth, oh, we don't make this, oh, we can't do that. Now people are waking up and now try to reindustrialize the country, but it's a serious situation. Like I tell people, and nobody really understands this, but my 20 years in China, and I understand the supply chains better than most people, is that China could shut off our lights anytime they want. They
Mm.
could just stop sending stuff. If the port, if the port stopped getting Chinese trade ships, okay, every productive plant we have in the country would go down in a month. Every shelf would go empty. How long do you think this place would stay viable if there's nothing going on and there's no products and there's no jobs? I mean, it wouldn't take much, you know.
I think that we're probably going to see kind of a strongman thing here, and that
Yeah, I agree.
I happen to like Trump. I know a lot of people think he's Satan. Like, it's fine.
Yeah,
It's just remove Trump,
yeah,
hypothetical President Dan. I think we're going to see a strongman. It's
yeah, I agree.
because it's that or it's total implosion, and
Yeah,
once that
I think
becomes
Trump is the precursor to the strongman.
yeah.
We haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah, no. It's I look at like the generation below me, and they look at I'm a millennial. I look at most people my age, and it's Trump is Satan. I look at the generation below me and they're like, they hate Trump because he's way too liberal. And I'm like, wow. And it's,
Yeah, it is changing. It's definitely changing.
but that's probably what you're going to have. And again, there's a difference between like stagnation and I think what Chris Hedges calls sacrifice zones. Detroit is a sacrifice zone. That
Right.
it's dead.
Yeah, yeah.
It,
Oh
it
yeah.
it's not it's not hey, the town went through a couple hard decades, but no, you're seeing it clean up. Like and that happens.
Yeah.
That's a sacrifice zone.
Yeah. And Pennsylvania steel towns and most of Ohio, and the list goes on and on. While we've been building mega mansions in Phoenix and Florida, the real economy of the United States, those areas have been hollowed out to where they're literally unrecognizable. You know.
I think we're starting to see the strongman thing, even with just like bombing drug boats. In
Yeah.
general, it's like, hey, that's killing 100,000 people a year with fentanyl. Just blow them
Right.
up.
Right.
And I know half the country thinks it's bad, but the fact that this is even happening is
Yeah.
wild. Like that, this
I get
Overton
a lot
window
of
is
flack
shifting.
on that from my usual group on X about because I don't have a problem with it. I'm not going to feel sorry. I don't feel sorry for the drug dealers.
No,
They're in go fast boats with three outboard motors going 60 miles an hour. Of course, they're stealing drugs. That's what they're doing. It's transshipment, Venezuela to Trinidad, Tobago, wherever it's somewhere in the Caribbean. Then it's coming here. It's going to Europe. It's going wherever. Don't feel bad for them, honestly.
I don't
I don't
care.
have an issue with it.
I
Yeah.
don't, I don't
We're
care.
losing 100,000 people. And Trump said the real numbers are even worse. He even mentioned 200,000 people a year with drug overdoses.
Yeah, that's
So,
33 9/11s per year.
yeah, exactly. I tell people if you look at history, why were the British opium traders in China viewed as evil? Yet today you don't view Mexican government or Venezuela or anybody else who's dealing drugs here.
You,
We are basically what they call Qing Emperor China, which was big society, couldn't do anything. It moved like a dinosaur. They couldn't, people were, 60 years in debt and the society's collapsing and the British were just addicting the whole population to opium.
yeah,
That's what's happening here with fentanyl and all this other crap that
yeah,
goes around.
yeah.
So,
No,
uh,
I am
yeah,
hopeful that we'll turn it around. And not blind. Blind optimism, I think, is also bad. That's you're
it's
detached from
sure.
reality. I don't think that blackpilling and dooming and saying it's over is beneficial either. It's a good wake up call, like you said. It benefits to be in reality.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing I can compare it to, which is my own life experience, is super disciplined, exercising in high school, never played sports, but just lifted weights. Got to college, and I was always a C student my whole life. Decided I wanted to be a doctor. And after my freshman year, just got fucked off, drunk and fat. I stopped everything and just studied nonstop for 3 straight years. Just stupid meathead. It was like a meme. Stupid meathead in the library. Aced classes for 3 straight years, aced the MCAT, got into medical school, and was super psyched about that. Felt like I could do anything. A little bit after that, I lost my older brother to suicide, and I just spiraled. Just drugs, gained like 80 pounds, was just, I mean, angry, pissed off for 2 years. And after 2 years, then I moved home with my parents at age 26 and lived at home for 5 years from 26 to 31, still going nowhere fast. And I started to, I don't know, around like the third or fourth year, I stopped believing that I'd ever return to like who I was. I think one time I was like, in college, and my dad was just like, you did that. That's not who you are, right? And it wasn't a hateful thing. It was just, you know, you're 30 and you're living at home. And forever, I just thought I kind of came to peace with like, oh, this is just what happens. Sometimes you get blindsided, and it's a sad story. But I just kept going and going and going, probably out of stupidity more than anything, and started the podcast. It made enough money to move out of my parents' house and got sober. I've lost weight and I've come back to God and to praying and blah blah blah. Happily ever after. And I know it's like, well, that's your life experience and you're projecting onto the world. I would say your own life experience is probably more valuable and relatable than any book you've ever read or any whatever. And so I look at my own sort of rise it was like post World War II Tommy, and then it was like I don't know, between 2014 and 2020 was like current America Tommy. Sacrifice zones, it's undeniably getting bad. And then it's you come to sink or swim, and I had like my own sort of, I guess, strongman theory where it was just like I'm going to work. I'm either going to succeed and recover, or I'm going to die, and I will do that until I die. And I kind of made it through. It pays for my rent now, and happily ever after, whatever. But that's how I look at it. And again, it's my own personal experience. It's not at all indicative of the history of 100 billion humans. But I look at that, how I truly believed at one point. I was like, oh, it's over. It's the empire's waning. It's a great story, but it's a tale as old as time. And then it pulled back, and it's insane to me. So I guess I look at that and I'm like, if it's possible there, it has to at least be possible. Is it probable? I have no idea. It has to at least be possible. So that's kind of how I look at it is I really only know my life experiences. So yeah, that's it all based in textbooks or whatever, but that's how I look at it.
We all have vastly different experiences, to your point. I saw I thought the other day I saw a picture of some girl in India. She looks 6 and she's making bricks. Not a great life, right? And then I think if two people got to heaven, if she showed up in heaven and Ariana Grande showed up in heaven and they asked the two, "Hey, what was Earth like?" Yeah, one would say, "Not great. I made bricks from the age of 6,"
Yeah,
and the other was a global superstar. So completely different life realities. But yeah,
it's
it's interesting to hear your story, though. It's we all have struggle. Struggle is what builds us, right?
sure.
I'm an avid follower of Nietzsche, and I live by his philosophies basically. So, struggle builds character, and whatever doesn't kill you will make you stronger. So,
It does. And I think that again, I know for me personally, I always had these like things in my mind where I'd be like, well, I won't allow that to happen. And then I won't allow that to happen. And one by one, I let these things happen as I just degraded further and further. And then I start to have these conditions on how far I would go to try to get better. I'm like, I'll try this. If this doesn't work, I'll just go get a job at a gas station. And then I would be like, if I have to go get a job at the gas station, I'll keep doing the podcast. And then I was working at a liquor store and I'll be like, if it goes further and I have to just go like get a one room apartment and do this every day, and, actually I think I will do that. Before this, I said that I wouldn't do that. That would be the line, but I'll do that. And as I kind of lowered my thresholds of like what I would tolerate, and finally it was like, I'm just gonna do this show until literally the internet gets cut off or I get shot. And once I sort of vacated like what is my exit point, some people are like, well, if the stock goes below this, I'm selling. And then you have some people that are like, no, man, I'm riding this thing to hell. I don't care. God, the universe, whatever. It's almost like reality looks at that and it's kind of like, oh, this is interesting. This is interesting. You know,
right, right.
I'm just gonna ride this thing out. And so I think in terms of like strongman is I think we will have you have these things that you won't allow happen on the way down. I won't allow myself to get fat. I won't allow myself to get on, Xanax. I won't allow and then as you do, um, and then as you're coming back up, you go, well, I'll quit if it gets this bad. I'll quit if it gets that bad. And then it's the inverse. You start to go, no, you know what? I'll fight through that. You know what? I'll fight through. I'll quit if I get banned from YouTube. And then I was banned from YouTube. Okay, well, I'll quit if I get banned from iTunes. Banned from iTunes. And as these things kept going, I started to change what I would accept as a means to victory and what I would sacrifice. I think that that's probably a fractal of kind of what we're going through now. 20 years ago, current Trump would be unimaginable at a first term Trump,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
I think even conservatives would be like, yeah, he's kind of a Nazi. And now we're just like, yeah, blow up those drugs. I don't care. I don't care. Yeah, make tariffs. We need jobs here.
Yeah,
This is,
yeah.
this is
The whole
just starting.
social contract has broken down to your point with the younger generation. They're coming up going, wait a second, what do you mean? I get 100K in student debt. I'll never afford a home. and I'm in the gig economy, F you, man. I'll
Yeah.
blow this whole thing up. And
Yeah.
that's what the younger generation is thinking. So
Yeah.
we're gonna see some shit.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that's why I look at and like and I'm framing all of this not in like an America will then, shut down China. No, I just look at it as like I don't think we're gonna allow ourselves to go off the cliff. Like right now we're slowly starting to push back. For decades we've just been sliding back. And now we're slowly starting to push off and people are starting to understand truly what a cliff is. And they're going, oh wait, wait. Oh wait. And I think that's kind of and honestly, it'll probably resemble kind of China. We're
Hmm.
just gonna start making stuff. If you need
Yep.
a win, if we do recover, it will be something like that. It'll be
Yeah.
we've done it before. We used to make
Yep.
our own refrigerators. We used to make our own
Yep.
cars. I think
Yep.
that's
I tell
probably what
people
it'll
it's a
be.
lot easier. We already make a lot of stuff. So it's not, we already make semiconductors. So making more semiconductors is not that difficult. Now we felt behind the technical curve, but what I witnessed, when I went to China, they were dirt poor. They couldn't make anything in the late 90s. I mean, it was bad. Like, and those guys my age, I'm in my 50s, these guys grew up hungry. These guys like the guys they know what it was like to be hungry. Okay. And that's why they fight so hard now, right? This is a different mindset. We grew up soft. And most of East Asia, especially South Korea, but definitely China, these guys grew up hungry, um, very poor. The state controlled everything. And then finally they bottomed out and they said, you know what? We're going to put up 80% tariffs on everything and we're going to make stuff. And they just ran with it. And that positive cycle's been building now since, mid 90s. So for them, so we can get it back. It's a matter of we have to get what I call the laptop warriors out of power. These people that are lawyers, like I tell, there's this lady, Gina Raimondo, who was our Secretary of Commerce, and she started the whole chip war in China. So she blocked $1 trillion in sales for our chips to China. Then she starts this whole trade war with these guys. Her PhD was in single motherhood. Okay. She's going up against guys that have advanced engineering degrees. So we have to, if she's a lawyer with a PhD in single motherhood, we have to get government people in power that know what they're doing. And it's these people that have never stepped foot in a factory before, they don't know how the world works. Their whole life has been on a laptop. So we have to get people with experience that understand. And I think Trump has pulled a lot of these guys in, like David Sachs. There's a lot of people I like in the cabinet. There's a lot of real estate guys. What do they know? Okay, maybe at least they know something outside of the laptop warrior class. But yeah, we got to get good people back in the government. And I always on X talk about we need a corruption czar. The United States has become so corrupt that it is shocking. Okay, and it's not one party, it's both parties, but the whole goal of politicians is basically to get in power and then have your family members go get rich. It's just insane what's been going on. I won't bore everybody with all the
I don't
details,
care.
but what we saw at the end of the Biden administration is just shocking. I mean, you're talking about one politician, brand new LLC, puts $100 in the checking account, and then a week before Biden leaves, she gets a $2 billion check,
Yeah.
for climate 2 billion. That was Stacey Abrams, out of Georgia. And it's like, whoa, like they're not stealing like thousands or hundreds of thousands. They're stealing billions. Okay. And when we have to stop being naive. I think Americans are good people. We don't have our levels of corruption in America have historically been pretty light, global speaking globally, right? Of course, there's corruption everywhere, but we've been pretty light. And we're basically our backbone, our foundations are rural people, farmers, and we're a little bit, Midwestern farmer types, and we're naive. Oh, they wouldn't do that. No, they'll steal the lights. They'll steal everything when they get in power. So we need a corruption czar in Washington, D.C. that just goes through everything. And Doge was a great start to that. Just stop the government spending. That's killing off everything. That's killing off the whole economy. But when you have your economy, which the U.S. is now, 40% of our GDP is government spending. Now it's like, whoa, how do you switch that over without collapsing the whole thing? And that's to your point you mentioned earlier. That's like, how do you recover without the whole thing falling down?
Yeah, it's one thing when you're writing off Starbucks on your government payroll. It's like, yeah, there's a certain
Yeah,
level where
exactly.
it's like grow up. Of course there's some graft.
Yeah,
And
right.
then there's
Exactly. Yeah,
and then there's looting the treasury bold. Yeah,
exactly.
I think that's what I think we're gonna have a corruption czar. And again, right now it's like, yeah, I don't really that seems absurd, but I look at just myself, even 8 years ago, and I thought I
Yeah,
was like a base conservative versus now I'm like, yeah, dude, grow up. What do you really 2025? What do you really think in 2033? Just the current rate of just change.
yeah.
Would anyone be surprised if it would be like, and this quarter, another 114 government officials will be executed at Guantanamo Bay for pillaging the U.S. economy? And, they were, and this guy was working with the cartels, and that guy was doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think so. And if you say
right,
like that's too violent, well, if a collapse is far more violent and depraved, we will choose that.
right. Yeah,
Absolutely. I don't think I
yeah,
would be surprised. I'm not saying it's going to be like pirates, like hanging them on the White House lawn, but I do, or it's like, okay, let's say not executed. Former Senator so and so is, been transferred to ADX Florence where they're now spending the rest of their life. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised about that at all.
yeah. You
Uh,
could literally, as I said, Europe could literally f fix their immigration problem. You just have to shoot one boat.
100%, 100%, stream it, blow it up, use America. You know what? You know what? You blame it on America. What? Hey, we'll take the heat. Blame it on us. Say we
Right,
thought it was a drug boat and America did it, and they're like the big brother. So we thought, blame it on the big brother. I don't even care. I
right.
think that's how it will start. And yeah, and again, any of these options that seem bad or barbaric, sure, they do now because the lights are on and the water works.
Yep.
When the other choice is food riots, very quickly you're gonna start being like, well, maybe they shouldn't have stole from the gov. People will very quickly throw out their beliefs and they'll be
Sure.
like, well, you shouldn't have stole. Yeah, you should.
Absolutely, yeah,
A
absolutely.
hundred percent.
Society can. Nietzsche said, "Society insanity is rare in individuals, but in societies, it's the norm." And we could flip on a dime here. There's absolutely we could flip from woke to something very, very hard in a couple, in a decade. That's not a. It
In no
could happen.
time.
Yeah.
In no time.
Yep.
It's imagine COVID times 1,000. How
Yeah.
quickly
Yeah.
do you think? Look at how rapidly that changed in like 90 days.
Yeah. And what still shocks me, what to this point, what makes me really nervous is we got away with somebody got away with COVID. 20
Yeah.
million dead. We just saw 200,000 people carpet bombed in Gaza. And now we already forget it and we move on. And what can't they get away with? Obviously, 9/11 is a cover up.
Yeah.
Epstein's running a foreign intelligence sex honeypot trap. Has anyone, of course, he hung himself, but no, nothing's getting exposed. That's getting all covered up. People have got to be thinking like, what can't we get away with? We can just get away with anything we want.
And I actually see the silver lining in that because the inverse is true. We will people, there would be outrage. No, no, no. Gaza is like not even the hot topic anymore. Now it's drug boats. And before Gaza, it was Ukraine. I
Right,
mean, like
right.
very quickly, I'm finished, the Toy Story
We just
meme.
move on.
I don't
Yeah.
want to play with this anymore.
Yep.
That would never happen in America. Very quickly, we'll just
Yeah.
go, and wasn't it kind of, do you guys remember back in 2028 when they just executed 300 members of Congress for corruption? I'd be like, oh yeah, we did kind of forget about that. Now the news is all about the lunar war now. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll do it. So I try to find the optimism in that. Like,
Yeah.
we will very quickly take the taboo and just do it and then yeet it out the window. Well, we will do that. And so I don't know. I try to find the optimism in that. It's a volatile system, which means it can go both ways. I don't know. I
Sure.
try to find the optimism in that. Like, yeah, we can make some radical changes. Yeah, I'm hopeful. And
And you can get, I like to study a lot of history and yeah, it can get hopeful and it can get very ugly. Like if you look at Europe post World War II, I still don't think people realize how bad it was.
Mhm.
Starvation, the rapes, the forced labor, the death camps. I mean, it can get nasty, and so it's better to keep everything on an even keel, as best we can. So, although we're going to go a little bit hard, like we have to be very careful that things don't spiral out of control because when they do, it gets really ugly. You look at take a country like Serbia, World War One, half of the men died. Half. That's
Yeah.
like 51% of men 18 to 64 died. So first you got a little spat, Archduke Franz Ferdinand dies, and the next thing you know, one out of two guys are gone
Yeah.
within 3, 4 years. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just crazy shit can happen,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, there's some quote that's like World War One started with men on horses from the Ottoman Empire, and it
Yep.
ended. The Ottoman Empire no longer existed, and people were dropping bombs from aircraft.
Yeah.
Four
Absolutely. Yeah.
years. Like,
Yeah.
dude, it
Right.
can zip.
Can change really fast.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I try to find the positive in that, which means it can change really good, really
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah.
And,
Absolutely
and,
can do
and
that as
people
well.
and people will look back and be like, how did that happen in 2030? And in 50 years will be like, yeah, man, it's you don't understand how it was slowly decaying and it got
Yep.
crazier. Like you guys read about COVID as a one chapter in your like no, it was wild. I think very and we'll be telling them in 2090 like and don't think this can't happen to you.
Right.
It just so again it might sound I really don't think it's negative. I actually think it's very positive. I think it can change rapidly.
Hmm.
But with that, yeah, we've been running for like an hour, so let's wrap this thing up.
All
Um,
right.
do you have any links or anything you want to put that any socials or
Uh,
any?
People want to find me. I'm on X, Dan Collins 2011. That's
Okay.
probably. I have a little YouTube channel called Chaos Incorporated. If you search that out and my name, you probably find me. I don't do that much content on it, but yeah, that's where to find me.
Can you send me both those links to
Yeah,
email those and I'll
absolutely.
copy and paste and put them right in the
Yep.
description? Well,
Yep.
dude,
Sure will.
thanks for doing this, man.
Hey,
It's
man.
yeah, most people are like, "What is your show about?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Like, how would you realistically like describe this episode?
Yeah, just yeah. I don't know. I think yeah. Just
If people are, what was it about?
Korea, global,
Yeah, no,
some
no. So
global
people
stuff, some China stuff. Yeah,
people are like, "What is your show about?" I'm like,
base.
I don't, started with China and then it went to
Right.
nuclear Armageddon and it
Right.
finished with the public execution of politicians.
You know,
What do you want from me?
it happens. It happens.
What do you want from me? That's the episode. Shit happens. A history
Right.
of man. Shit
Yeah.
happens by Dan Collins, forward by Tom Carrigan. That's gonna be our book. All right, dude. Well, hey, I'll
Hey,
send this
man.
to you when it's up. I'd love to have you on
Cool.
again sometime. And
Yeah, anytime.
thank you for time
Cheers,
in your
man.
day, dude. Yeah,
Great talking.
you as well.
Great
Thank you so
talking.
much, sir. Guys, thank Hey guys, real quick, you guys know Basil Baz, ARC, the Association for the Recovery of Children. I just did a fundraiser with them the other day, and I'm going to put this onto every episode I do. They are special forces veterans who physically rescue trafficked children. They have since 1993. They have a 100% success rate. They do not take salaries. They all have day jobs, and they literally rescue sex trafficked children. Donations to them are a tax write-off. I get nothing from them, and they have not asked me to put this on. I've included this little clip on episodes for the last year or so, and I'm just re-recording it because I just got to meet him just 2 days ago for future. It's November 25th, 2025, but this will be on every episode now for the next year. And there is nothing better you can do with your money. Um, if you can support them for even $5, please do that. They truly are doing the Lord's work, and I think we all have an obligation to do that. Thank you so much.
Higher ultraviolet exposure is associated with lower mortality. The United Kingdom is a high latitude and low sunlight country. Researchers there collected data on over 360,000 participants in a study of UV exposure via solarium use. When compared with non-users, solarium users had 15% risk lowered of all-cause mortality, 23% lower risk of cardiovascular mortality, 14% lower risk of cancer mortality, and a 12% lower risk of non-cardiovascular, non-cancer mortality. In other words, all other causes. Quoting the researchers, our study adds to the growing evidence that the benefits of UV exposure outweigh the risks in low sunlight environments. A link to the original publication is available in the box below the video. Get some UV light this winter. Immerse yourself in the tranquility of the blue. Visit a Blue Room soon. www.blueroom.com.
Hey guys, a huge sponsor of the show is Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food. Clayton lives down in Georgia. He's been on the show before. It's actually nearby where I went to college. They are a huge sponsor of the show. They give me some money every month, even when I don't sell enough to warrant that paycheck. Meaning that the show is not free. It's just that it's free for you. If you guys need prepper food, or if you're just interested in supporting the show, I'd please ask you to go to the link in the description. Go to Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food, promo code TPC for 10% off. 72 servings per pail, 25-year shelf life. These things are, they double as dumbbells. Pasta Primavera, cheesy potato soup, mac and cheese, loaded baked potato casserole, chili mac, cheddar broccoli soup, cheesy lasagna, teriyaki rice. You can get banana chips. There's also raspberries, strawberries, and apples. There's a bunch of freeze-dried fruit, or you can even get seeds to plant your own garden. It's not a bad thing to have. It's like gold or ammunition. It's a good thing to have. It's a bad thing if you have to use it, but it's good. It's good to have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. So that's what I'd say. And if you just want to support the show, please go to the link in the description. Please go support them because they support me. Thank you so much, guys.